Father, I think I should marry Danik sooner rather than later. Don't you?
Seize the time, Maribor. Live now. Make now always the most precious time. Now will never come again.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the famous TNG episode, The Inner Light. Original air date was May 30th in 1992, and as always we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, before I start the recap, I gotta mention. So, I recently went to a trivia night. Mm-hmm. I mentioned this to Jeff and Maggie already, when it first happened, but I want to share out with the listeners. So, at the trivia night, one of the questions was in the episode, the inner. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was in the episode, the inner light. This character wakes up in another place where they're told that they're living in a delusion or whatever. And I was sitting there, and this was very recently after. This was 2 days after I was given the script, I did my prediction for this episode, and I'm sitting there and I'm this sounds very familiar. And I would just because also the name of the episode doesn't always I would never have remembered it, but I was this description, and I just look at my teammates and I was is this Picard? And they were I'm is this Picard though? They're yeah. I'm oh my god, I knew something. No, I'm good at trivia, but I was oh my god, what a coincidence that I never heard of this. 2 days before I'm given this description, and then I was oh, I knew the answer. Look at me go.
Nice.
And I hadn't even watched the episode yet.
I guess well, I'm assuming it's your first experience knowing the answer to a Star Trek question.
Well, sort of, because then they also had a question about it was about characters who have numbers in their names, and one of them was what is 7th of 9 from? And I was oh, I know it's from Star Trek. I don't know which series, but I was oh, I know that's from Star Trek, because we had just done the Borg episode. So where was 3rd of 5, and I was oh my god, I know that. But
oh, that's awesome.
So that was kind of a funny coincidence too, because this was if that was a week or two before, I would have had no idea, but just the timing, I was oh, okay, yeah.
Nice.
So that was a funny coincidence, and I was very proud of myself. I was I knew the answer. It was Star Trek.
Nice. It's a good feeling. Cause, Not to toot our own horn or anything, but Jeff and I once won a Star Trek trivia contest.
We did.
Ooh.
We did. Oh, and the best part about it was that one of the answers, apparently, that they had in the trivia was incorrect, and all of the nerds in the audience were correcting them.
Yeah, because it was so even nerdier, this was at the premiere of Star Trek Discovery of the first season, the first episode. So we went to a bar. It was actually a gay bar. They were having a queer Star Trek night for the first night of Discovery. So they had this trivia contest, and we traded our answers with the other tables there. And so the people that got our answers was this table of Klingon cosplayers, which was really cool. and they were they were totally fucking wrong about this answer, so we gave it to you.
Nice.
Thanks, friend.
For the trivia thing I went to earlier, we actually came in second place, and which I was very happy with, because first place was a patio umbrella, and I was who's gonna fucking take a patio umbrella? This thing was huge.
Yeah.
So a second place was dinosaur erotica.
Okay.
So there was books with the title, one was called Tyrannosaurus Sext, and then but the one that I thought,
oh wait, are they Chuck Tingle books?
I was just about to ask that.
I don't think so. Hold on. Oh, let me go check.
Although Chuck Tingle titles are usually like really long.
Yeah,
No,
they're
no,
also very
they're-
literal.
Yeah.
No, the one that I have, it's called, written by someone named Lola Faust.
Ah.
And the one I took is called, oh God, I'm trying to take it out of it. It's in a specimen bag, a biohazard specimen bag. It's called Wet Hot Allosaurus Summer.
Oh,
That's
right
hilarious.
Yeah, but the one that I thought had the funniest name was called Triceratops and Bottoms.
Very
That's
nice.
amazing.
Yeah, but it was about time travel, so I was like, I don't want that. I don't like time travel stuff. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. Okay. Anyways, okay, so the recap. Okay, so following a magnetic wave survey of the Parvenium system, the Enterprise has detected an object which they cannot immediately identify, a UFO.
Nice.
So it appears to be a probe, and it's like the shape is not like recognized by Starfleet, like the shape or design or anything. It kind of looks like if you took two screws and like glued the flat parts together, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean by that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
So it's composed of a Persinium Intelgonite, whatever, the ceramic alloy, whatever. So Worf detects low-level nucleonic beam coming from the probe, shields up, standby phasers, and the probe is emitting an unusual particle stream, and the beam is penetrating the shields. And Picard starts, he goes, increase speed 2, and then he passes out. And then Riker like rushes over to him, and as Picard is like going unconscious, Riker fades, and it clears up to a lady who is not Riker. Mm-hmm. And Picard is like, what the fuck is happening? He wakes up, he's in like a home, and he's like, he thinks it's the holodeck.
Yeah.
He's like, computer pause program, computer freeze program, computer end program. And we learn, so this woman, her name is Elaine, and she is his wife. And Picard's name in this is Cayman, which I will not be calling him because I was like, do I make up a silly little nickname like I did for like Picard and all that? But I was like, you know what? But he's still Picard the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to call him Picard.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Did you?
Because it is still the same person the whole time. So.
Did you have a fun little nickname for Borg Picard? I forget. Did you call him like Borgcard or something?
Yeah,
like,
I think I did.
Like before you knew his name was Locutus?
Yes, I think it was Bocard or something like that. That sounds about right.
I like Locutie.
Locutus. Honestly, Focard is like, I think like one of it's your best work.
Yeah, I think so too.
Bocard.
You'll have to use it next time there's a fake Picard if that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. I'd like that on my gravestone.
Yeah.
Focard is one of your greatest works. Okay, so they're calling him Cayman, and he is in. Okay, listen.
Yeah.
The outfits in this situation are kind of hilarious. They're not bad. They're just
Let's just say there's a reason that this species is extinct.
Yeah.
wow, spoilers.
So I don't know if it's Patrick Stewart. I don't know if it's someone in the costume department. It's someone. But someone is very adamant about putting Patrick Stewart in low V-necks. And I'm not...
the 90s.
Just,
yeah, I'm not mad about it. But
Yeah.
anytime they have the opportunity to put Picard in a casual outfit, it's gotta have a low V.
they're like, gotta let that chest hair breathe.
Yeah.
Gotta let it flow.
And you know what? They're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, they're not going to get an argument
Yeah.
from this podcast. Not at all. Okay, so Picard, this outfit that he's wearing, it is like green tie-dye, and it's like a jumpsuit, but the like bottom half, so the top half is like a tank top with like a little like sort of cutout-ish. It's like a very like 2000s neckline.
Yeah, it's less it's kind of like a muscle shirt almost, where it's like it's not what you think of a tank top, in that it's like if you took a t-shirt and just cut off the sleeves. But then also put a low V on it.
Yeah. But it is a jumpsuit. But the bottom half is like, like 16th, wait, no. Yeah, I think it's like 16th century pants. It's got like this sort of like half a, like the like around the thighs are like parachute pants, but then like the calves are like narrow.
Yeah,
it's a look. Oh, and he's wearing Toms.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's those type of pants that are like really poofy at the thighs, but then get tight at the bottom half of the legs.
I think it's like 16th century style pants, but I might be wrong, but I feel like that sounds correct-ish.
They're like pantaloons.
Okay. Yeah. So so Aline is like, "Oh, you've had a fever for days." And then he's like, "I think I'm going to go outside." And she's like, "You really shouldn't go outside." But then he makes eye contact with her like a cat pushing a glass off a table. And then he opens the door and is like, "Bye," and just like leaves. And then like he's walking down the street and children run by, terrifying. And then he gets to like this sort of city center area where people are applauding over a tree being planted.
Yeah.
And we meet this guy. His name is Bataille. He is a council leader, and he's friends with Picard. Shit, I probably should come up with something, because he's not friends with Picard. He's friends with Cayman.
Yeah. He's friends with the Cayman Islands.
Oh God, what do I even like? I was like, Picard.
Oh God, no.
That's terrible.
Yes, please do not do that. Cayman.
Cayman's not bad. Pac-Man. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where did that come from?
I don't know. I'm looking at his name over top the word Cayman, and I'm just like trying to figure out what would
Pikmin.
like
Captain Gaslit?
No, Pikmin.
Pikmin.
You could just call him Cayman.
You know what?
Also.
I'm gonna call him. You know what? I could also just call him Card.
You could. Card.
I suppose, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Card. Spelt with a K. Okay, so Bataille is Card's friend, and he's like, "Oh, your fever must have caused memory loss." And so apparently he's been sick for like over a week, but Aline like wouldn't take him to the hospital. She was like, "I'll take care of him myself." And I'm like, if he was sick for over a week, like with a fever, she should have taken him to a fucking hospital.
Yeah.
Like that's
not like they're playing it up like oh, what a caring wife. I'm like, that's not.
No.
Yeah.
You like, is she a doctor? Is she a nurse? Is she any kind of medical professional? No. Fucking take him to the hospital. Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. So then he's like, where the fuck are we? And so they are in a town called Resik, which is in the northern province of a planet called Catan. And Picard is like, oh, not a Federation planet. And like, does he know all of the Federation planets? Is that like a thing? Like, how would he know?
Yeah, apparently there's thousands of them, so that's a lot to remember.
Yeah, that is a good point.
It's kind of like whenever they see like a Federation ship on screen that's like real far away, and the first reaction is like, is that the Melbourne? And I always wanted it to be something like, no, sir, there are literally hundreds of ships with that configuration in Starfleet. That is not the Melbourne at all.
Yeah, and it's like, they don't just have one design, one ship. Like, they have a design and then make a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I call this a stretch, but listen, I'll allow it. Yeah. So Picard and his arms go on a hike because he was like, welcome to the gun show.
Yeah.
Fun fact about that scene, that is actually the only scene in the entire episode that is shot on location outdoors.
Well, that's what my note was. I wrote Picard and his arms go on a hike in the real outdoors.
Yep.
And so then we see kind of a wider shot of the area, and looking at it, the city kind of reminded me of like Gondor / like Greek islands. So it's like if Greek islands were in Gondor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because like when I was watching it, the first thing I thought of was like Greek islands is also. So I totally get what
because
you're
of the
saying.
surrounding, it was like Gondor.
Yeah.
So,
some of it is the fact that they have clearly built all of their sets out of like just very simple.
Well, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
No,
looks
it
fine.
doesn't. It doesn't. It's just that the material looks like something that you would find in Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay.
Oh, it's also kind of semi-important to know that there's a drought going on
Yes.
on Cayman, or Catan, rather.
Catan. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I might just stick with Picard. Cayman is not. Card is not going to be helpful in this
Yeah.
situation. Okay. So okay, so then Picard returns to his house, and honestly, I actually like a lot of Elaine's outfits in this episode. Mm-hmm. She wears these like tie-dye flowy dresses, but they like fit her really nicely, and they just look like comfortable.
Yeah.
They're like, she's got like, it's like a boat neck. There's a couple of like cutouts. Like, I wrote a conservative boob window. And she gives Picard soup, and he really enjoys the shit out of that soup. So we learn that he's been married to Elaine for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he is the best iron weaver in the community, according to her.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. And he plays the flute. Here's the question, though. To me, that looks like a recorder.
Yeah. I mean, recorders are a type of flute.
Yes, they are.
Oh. But they wanted to say flute because it sounds better than recorder, because a recorder is what 8-year-olds learn to do in school. Sorry, no offense to anyone who plays the recorder. But actually, I guess offense to those who...
Yeah, nobody plays the recorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really, like, bring back this recorder. I'm just going to call it a recorder. I'm not calling it a flute. Sorry.
All right.
So, okay, Picard notices Elaine's necklace is the exact same design as the probe. And he's like, huh, where'd you get that? And she's like, oh, it's the first gift that he ever gave her. I wrote in my note, oh, Picard, this has got to be, it was all a dream or something, right? Yes and no, as it turns out.
Yeah.
I mean, the episode is not trying to hide the fact that it is something that he's experiencing while he's in a coma. Like,
but it's not.
It
but
comes
I
out
didn't-
pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like the actual like reasoning of like what this whole was, though, I was surprising.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah. Cool.
But like in a good way. So, okay, so back on the Enterprise, Picard's unconscious. Dr. C's trying to like set up shit, and like she's getting hyperactive fibrogenic activity from Picard, and his vital signs are normal, but the neurotransmitter production is off the scale. They don't know how to block the probe, but they also can't really destroy it because they don't know what that will do to Picard.
Mm-hmm.
So the probe has kind of like connected itself to Picard, and when the Enterprise moves, it just follows. It's like, it's like a leash essentially. Okay, so now back on Catan. Picard is charting the progress of the sun. Elaine is wearing another cute dress, and it's purple. And I was like, oh, 2 cutouts. And then I realized Picard's hair was a little longer. Mm-hmm. And we learn it's been 5 years
Yep.
in this universe. And I was like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. And also, his like longer hair is a wig. And it was very distracting because you can see it's like a bald cap over his bald head.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because it gave like an extra bump on the like top of his head, and it looked very weird.
The episode definitely did not deserve to win any awards for makeup.
Yes, agreed.
But considering how many times they had to change his makeup throughout the episode, I'd say it's passable.
The wigs in this are unacceptable.
I mean, they had to do
Yeah.
like 3 different old age makeups on him.
It was wild. Okay, so Elaine's like, do you still think about the ship? But also, did like anybody on that ship love you as much as I did? And I was like, listen. Listen. And then she's like, when will you start living this life? When can we start a family? And Picard's like, ooh. I was like, oh, wow. You really think you're going to start a family with Picard? I was wrong. I was very wrong. Yeah, this episode was full of surprises.
When they were writing the episode, they were adamant that he had to do that because the attitude with their approach to it is that Picard is still the same person. Like in terms of his personality, in terms of his drive, all of that is the same. But he doesn't have a responsibility to the Federation here. What would he do? Yeah. And it really is his love for exploration and the kind of life that forces him to lead in Starfleet that's the reason he doesn't have a family. It's not because he wouldn't ever like one. It's because that life does not allow it.
But also they've made it really clear that he doesn't really like kids.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of every time like a child comes up, I'm like, ugh. So, okay, so Bataille comes to pick up Picard to go talk about this tree or whatever. And so then we meet this guy, the administrator, who is low-key kind of hot. And
except he's like a fucking smarmy politician.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, like, all the other crops are dying except for this tree, which is, I wrote in my notes, 30, flirty, and thriving.
Nice.
And the tree is the symbol of their affirmation of life. And then we also learned that apparently everyone gives part of their water rations to keep this tree alive, which, like, that seems dumb. Sorry, but, like, this one tree... they just planted that tree 5 years before and like
it doesn't even grow fruit or anything.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, like, you need as much water as you can possibly like have at this point. So
and listen, if you can keep this tree alive, sorry to interrupt, but like, couldn't you have done the same thing with like a community garden or something where like everyone contributes to like this garden and then you have food?
To be fair, in their defense, this is like a liberal non-solution to a problem where it's like, oh, it's symbolic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also, it seems like the administration of this society is very much like, we hear you, we see you, we don't give a fuck, nothing will change.
Yeah. Basically,
I mean,
Picard's
I like that...
Picard's like, there's climate change, and the guy's like, that's nice, we're not going to do anything about it.
Yep.
So, like the real world.
But, like, even the administrator is like, oh, perhaps I'll recommend a symbolic tree in each of my communities. And it's like, yeah, that is some, like, politician non-solution bullshit.
Yeah, that's definitely going to fix this drought.
Yes.
So Picard's like, oh, yeah, so, like, we're all going to run out of water if the weather doesn't really change. And I'm like, in 5 years, this is the first time he says anything. It's the first time he's brought it up. This has taken him 5 years. They had a drought when he got there.
Well, no, it's the first time that he's able to bring it up to somebody who's higher up above the politics of this town.
Yeah.
But, in 5 years?
Well, the thing is,
it seems like the administrator pops in quite often.
Yeah.
Or he's also got Bataille, who's a council member, so it feels like this is
he wasn't a council member till later.
No, Bataille was a council member from the start.
Oh, yes. But it wasn't Bataille's, what do you call it? It wasn't his line. Like,
well, it's probably taken...
But would he not have, like...
No, well, it's probably taken him this long to, like, reach a conclusion of his research. Like, it probably took him a while to even think to start looking into the drought and then to actually, like, find ways to research what's happening and then to reach a conclusion.
I mean, when he got there, they were in a drought. So, like,
yeah, but
that would not have taken that long to realize, oh, we still in drought? After, like, a couple of years?
Droughts can last for years.
But... Yeah, but that's the thing. It's
I know, but like
because a drought isn't necessarily an indication of like something that's wrong long term. Because like droughts can happen, and it's like it's not necessarily an indication of a long-term problem. So it's like once the drought started dragging on, then he's like, "Huh, this is weird. I should look into this." and then he starts looking into it more, and then it does take some time to sort of realize, like, oh, this isn't any normal drought. This is actually like something really big is happening.
But his logic is like, if the weather doesn't change, that's because what he says is like, if the weather doesn't change, we're gonna run out of water. It's like, well, if the weather hasn't changed in all this time, yeah, I feel like if the weather hasn't changed in a couple of years,
Yeah. Well,
it just feels like this took like a too long of a time for something to like.
Well, no, I think he's trying to
up.
convince the other guy, because the other guy's like, hey, we've been rationing water and we've been getting along fine. And Picard's like, listen, if this keeps going, then that's not going to be fine anymore. Right? So
Yeah, for the record,
I don't think it's like Picard being like, oh, I wonder when this drought's going to end. Like, I think he's trying to say, hey, this drought's not ending.
yes.
Oh no, I know. I just feel like this seems like 5 years is an awful long time to make that conclusion.
Dory, it took like over 30 years for scientists to finally convince politicians that like a hole was forming in the ozone, and it took a further 20 years for them to actually solve that.
But this is Star Trek, so aren't we supposed to assume that that people are more progressive?
No,
Thanks,
this is
Gene.
a society that is no more advanced than we are.
Yeah.
Well, if shit didn't change in years, I would have come to some kind. I feel like it just took a long time. To me, 5 years seems a little long to come to this conclusion.
I just gave an
But-
example that took
for like
50.
But for this particular thing, I mean, the thing is, like, if this particular area has seen one climate for years, for like one thing and nothing changes, that just
But
seems
droughts
like
can last for years, like
No, I
normal
know.
droughts.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying is like, if it's a drought, like, but with any kind of drought though, wouldn't you want to like figure out something to do so like it can still live sustainably even if it's going?
Yeah.
It just like instead.
Yeah, but like look at the real world. Like that's happening now and people aren't doing anything about it.
Because we have a bunch of idiots in charge.
Yeah.
So do they. That's the point.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, is that they're like
Well, but
you're
people have been
ignoring-
bringing this up people have been bringing it up for a very long time. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, oh, these people had to do something right away. It's just, if this is the first time someone is bringing this up,
Well,
that's kind of wild.
We don't know if it's the first time anyone's bringing it up. It's
Yeah, the
first
internet
time
doesn't exist
they
on
make
this
it
world.
seem like it is
It's the first time
someone's
anybody
bringing
in
it
that
up.
community is, but it's a small
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that's why I'm saying is like, I'm not saying, oh, something had to be actioned right away. I'm just saying for it to take this long for someone to bring it up, that's kind of wild.
I don't think that's unrealistic at all.
In my opinion, it is. But
All right.
Yeah.
like, and I don't just mean if it's like Picard specifically. I just mean like nobody brought this up in any of, like, we don't know how long ago the drought started,
Yeah.
but like they were already into the drought by the time Picard got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like nobody paid it. Nobody was like, hey, this is going on for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
we got to think about it.
Well,
I'm not saying this is on Picard. I'm just saying
Yeah,
in
yeah.
general, it's wild that this is the first time someone brings something up about that maybe we should do something.
Well,
It's also the
it seems
only-
like they have been talking about it, because it's like, you know, they were discussing the drought and like, you know, what to do about it, and their solution for it has been to
Ration
conserve
water.
to ration water and stuff like that. And yeah, it just seems like this is the first time like Picard's bringing it up, and Picard is like just has done like more research than anybody else, because this is like a tiny town of people like just trying to live their lives, and
Yeah, there
doesn't-
probably are no
saying-
scientists in this town.
yeah.
Are you saying it's a poor provincial town and Picard is the belle of this situation?
Yes, he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Listen, I don't disagree with you that, like, technically, yes, like, people should have seen this coming, and it's weird that no one's said anything. I mean, we don't know what people have said. We don't know, like, because at the end, it's revealed that, like, that they had scientists, like, looking into this, and that they just chose not to say anything about it.
Yeah, but that's like way years in advance that they finally like come say, oh, we've got
Yeah.
a plan. But like,
It's
but
like,
this is like, that's like 30 years later or something.
yeah, in an ideal world, like, no, it would have, like, it shouldn't have taken this long to, like, say something or to figure this out.
Yeah.
But I do think it's realistic because, like, that shit has straight up happened in like our real world.
Yep. It's happening right now.
Yeah. And, like, I totally get being, like, aghast, being like, dude, what the fuck, why are you, like, why haven't you said anything before? Why has no one else looked into this yet? And that sort of thing. Because you are right. But I don't think it's, like, unrealistic that happened.
It's also important to remember that this episode is very much focused on the fact that it is Picard's personal experience of what is going on, and we're not really meant to be paying as much attention to the whole, like, real rest of the world around him, because that rest of the world is not what's considered important to the story. Like, yes, it is happening, but the story's thematic focus is personal experience, and, like, that ends up being the conclusion in the end, that, like, this is you have now lived our personal experience, and now you can pass that on through your own personal experience.
Yeah. I just think, like, in real life it's a little different because we had a billion, like, they just have one thing that is, like, has been going, and on Earth we have, like, 50 billion things, and people have been bringing it up for a long time. And we just had idiots in charge. Yeah. So I think it took long because we have idiots, and I think also we had a billion different things of, like, signs and shit of stuff going down. So I do think it's a little bit different. For this had one thing going on, and they were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So okay.
I know, like,
anyway.
a 20-year drought, like, yeah, that is, like, way different than what's happening, like,
yeah, just, like, I feel like
on Earth. Yeah. But they only have so much time on the show.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Picard suggests building an atmospheric condenser, which could extract water from the air. But the administrator is like, oh, cool idea, but that's, like, too extra for us, so no thanks.
Yeah, that'd be too expensive.
Yeah. So Picard's like, hey, Bataille, come to dinner to plan our own condenser plans. And
they end up just fucking around.
Yeah, so they sit outside Picard's house while he plays fucking Frere Jacques on the fucking recorder.
Yeah,
I'm like, gotta be French. Gotta have a French song that's, like, royalty free.
I was wondering if you were gonna freak out over them playing Frere Jacques again.
Oh, of course. Also, I think that the tassel on the recorder is a very funny touch. Yeah. It's just like, just to jazz it up a little bit. This isn't like other recorders. It's a special recorder. I'm a cool recorder. Yeah. Because tassels have notoriously been known to be cool. Yeah. So okay, Bataille leaves and he's talking with Aline, and she's like, okay, well, we can, like, he's like, I haven't been a good husband, and, like, I've basically been spending my time, like, you know, charting the stars, hiking for days and whatever. And Aline's standards, she seems like a very nice person, but man, her standards could not be lower. Yeah. Because she's just like, listen, you're a good husband because you haven't raised your voice at me. Yeah, you haven't yelled at me. I was like, Aline, what the fuck? Yeah. I'm like, girl, raise your standards a little bit. Oh my God. Ugh. So then he's like, okay, I'd like your permission to build something new. And she's like, you already built a telescope and your lab. I feel like you don't need permission from me at this point. And he's like, for this I do. A nursery? And I was like, I'm sorry, Picard's asking to be around children? And she's like very, very happy. Yeah. I mean, it is different when it's your own kids. I wrote, what? Picard to be a dad? He does know babies turn into children. So back on the Enterprise, Geordi is doing research on the probe, and there's, like, residue from the propulsion system used a solid propellant as fuel. I don't know, there's, like, a lot of nothings. The sensors read it as a crystalline, oh my God, what did I write? Emeristol? I don't know if that's an N or an R. I'm sorry, I can't help you out because I don't remember the line. It doesn't matter. It's the part of whatever could be traceable. So Riker wants to send out a probe of their own to trace the origin, and Data has been analyzing the nucleic beam, believes it be possible to reflect it back towards the probe in a way that would disrupt the signal. Now back in the Catan, we got another time jump where we learn that Picard has 2 children, Maribor, who is a daughter, and a brand new baby named Bataille, named after that other guy Bataille who passed away.
Yeah.
And I just was like, oh, Picard is an old dad.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. They have continued with this hair. Ugh.
Yeah, it doesn't get better, unfortunately.
But I wrote in my notes, Picard is an old dad, like current Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Because they both just announced that they're expecting children.
Yeah.
And they're very old.
Yeah.
And I wrote in my notes,
They're
this
even
episode,
older, so it's uncomfortable with them.
So I wrote, does this episode actually change how Picard feels about children? Because it seems like he chooses to hang out with his daughter. Which is like,
his daughter's a tomboy.
is he like a nice dad? Is he a good dad? I mean, honestly,
Apparently.
that shouldn't be surprising. I feel like Picard would be a good dad. And so then so Picard then collapses in the dream. This is at his like kid's baby naming or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then in real life, on the Enterprise, he is also like crashing. So basically, they deflected the beam, which ended up being very bad for Picard. It wasn't done. The beam isn't done. So they have to like take away, like stop the reflecting and just let it keep going. So now back in Catan, Maribor is a actual like adult now. She's a scientist. And Picard's hair is starting to go Doc Brown from like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And also the makeup is upsetting. It looks like Picard is melting.
Marty, we gotta stop it, Marty. We've got to, what do we have to stop, Doc? We gotta stop the planet from burning.
So Maribor knows that she's also figured out the planet is dying, and he's like, hey, that guy likes you though. Maybe you should get married. And she's like, I feel like I got other things to do. And he's like, listen, YOLO, get married, please.
Yeah.
You have like no time.
His line on that is excellent. The seize the time, live now. That the way that he delivers that is just really powerful. I like that.
So YOLO.
Yes.
Yeah.
The line is actually used again in one of the Star Trek films to much lesser strength than it has here.
I like Picard's relationship with his daughter. It's sweet. Okay, so back on the Enterprise, Geordi reports to Riker that they were able to trace the probe to a star system in the Solarian sector called Catan. And the twist is all life in this system was destroyed by a star going nova over 1,000 years ago. Which is like, wait, what? And so back in the Catan timeline, we see Picard looking through a massive telescope. Well, massive for this show. I know in real life there's like bigger telescopes.
Yep.
But that's very big. Picard, again, melting at a faster rate. But Aline looks good. Aline has aged well.
Yeah.
Her hair and makeup actually looks pretty good. I wrote, she's still serving looks. She's in a pink silk outfit. It looks great. And so then we meet adult Bataille, who is wearing a very tie-dyed shirt. He wanted to let everyone know he's dropping out of school to become a musician.
Yeah.
He wants to concentrate on his music, Dad.
Yeah.
And Picard's like, fuck. Fine,
Yeah.
follow your dreams.
Well, he's also like YOLO. Like there's no future for you, so you may as well spend it on your
just
music.
do what you want. Yeah, he's like, what? And then he's like, okay, actually, fine. Do what you want, I guess. So then,
fun fact about him, that the young Bataille there is played by Daniel Stewart. Mm-hmm. Daniel Stewart is Patrick Stewart's son.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wild. I would not have guessed they were related. But okay, I did note in my notes that his accent really changes a lot.
Yeah.
The guy who
Yes.
played Bataille, his because he goes from like having like, I guess, quote unquote American accent to then he has like a British accent at one point, and then he
He
sounds
is British.
Australian at one point. So I was like, what is this accent? So okay, Picard then goes to see the administrator, and he's arguing because he's like, the planet is fucking dying, and the administrator is same one as before, just old, and he's like,
Badly
he also has aged poorly. So he's like, oh yeah, our scientists realized this shit 2 years ago. We got a plan in the works. This plan is not.
Yeah.
This
Because
plan
it's
is
too
dumb.
late to do anything.
Yeah.
It's too late to do anything.
But they're like, oh, but we can't tell the public because they would freak out. And it's like, oh, so basically just let them all die, I guess. Great,
Yeah.
thanks. And he's like, what are we supposed to do? Our technology sucks butt. Like, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
But the
His-
plan's in the work, but I
I
can't
actually
tell
really
you.
hate his line there where he's just like, our technology is limited. We're just beginning to launch small missiles. And it's like, I mean, maybe he's comparing it to like sci-fi or something like that, but it kind of just sounds like a guy explaining their situation to an alien.
Yeah.
But also, why is there... It doesn't seem like they're in war with anyone. So why are they developing missiles? Why would you
Well,
not
for
try to do
propulsion.
technology that's like helpful?
Yeah.
For propulsion.
I think they maybe just used missiles as like a general term and not like as a device of war, but just like they're just starting to like launch things like into space and stuff.
I feel
Yeah.
like they should work on shit on their planet before they're trying to go do shit
Yeah.
in space, though.
The thing
So
is
I
though
re-
is like they already shit the bed on that aspect, so they're like, well, fuck, now it's too late to actually save us, so now we have to figure out like a way of preserving the history of our society.
Yeah. So, in my notes, I wrote, "Is it the probe? Is their plan the fucking probe?"
Yeah.
And then, so, I wrote, Bataille with an English accent gets Picard, because something is wrong with Elaine. So Elaine is on a chaise lounge, and the doctor is just like was with her, and then Picard comes in and he just goes, "I'm sorry," and then just stands in the background because he's like, "My work here is done." And it's like, "What work?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Nothing. I'm just gonna stand here and do nothing." We don't even know. Like, Elaine dies of plot
Plot
disease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plot
especially
disease.
since she sends her son off to go do something else, and then she just kind of dies conveniently.
Yeah.
I
So
love that,
Picard-
like, sorry, I just because he's like, my work here is done, but you didn't
Yeah,
do
just-
anything. Didn't
Didn't
I?
I?
So, but Elaine stays alive long enough to make sure Picard is still on the council, and then she dies. Because literally, that's like the last thing. She's like, "Are you still on? Did you tell them the stuff?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you still on the council?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "Great, peace," and then dies.
To be fair, her
alright.
character isn't really developed. Like, it's her personality is entirely dependent on him.
Yep. No, and that's fine. I just
Yeah,
think,
it
like,
is,
She
it
just
is.
was like, "I gotta find out if Picard is on the council still before I pass." And so yeah, she dies. And then we go through another time jump where Picard is a grandpa. And so Meridor has a kid, a son. And oh my God, when she walked in, my first thought is Princess Diana. She had the same haircut as Princess Diana.
Yeah, she does have a Princess Diana vibe.
Yeah. And so we see Bataille now has an Australian accent, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go see the missile launch." And they're like, Picard's like, "What? What the fuck are you guys talking about?" And
He's
then
like,
Picard,
don't you know about the missile launch? It's like,
Yeah,
it's
and
all very
then-
creepy.
And then Picard, oh God, this was such a sad thing. Picard's like, "Oh, I look at my grandson," and he's like, "Look at my grandson as a huge bummer because he deserves like a rich, full life, but he's not gonna get one because we're all gonna fucking die."
Yeah.
And they're all okay. So then they bring him out to go see the missile, and they're all wearing hats, but they're looking straight up in the sun. So like, good job, hats, I guess.
Yeah.
And Picard's like, "What the fuck are we even launching?" And Mordor's like, "Hey girl, you've already seen it." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And then Bataille appears, and he's like, but like old Bataille, not son Bataille.
Yeah.
And he's like, you've seen it already. It's like, so basically, oh God, this was honestly a twist and a bummer and a heartbreaking. He's like, they hoped that, so the probe that they saw at the beginning, that is what they were launching. And they were hoping the probe would encounter someone in the future, someone who could be a teacher, someone who could tell the others about them. And Picard goes, oh, it's me, isn't it? I'm the someone. I'm the one it finds. And yeah, so it's like pretty fucking sad.
Yeah.
They basically just were like, they basically were like, Picard, you got to live our life so then you can tell our story so we're not fucking forgotten in history and some shit. And I'm like, oh my God. So there wasn't any like nefarious shit. This was just them being like, remember us.
Yeah.
And so then because I guess they're done running the VR game, the probe shuts down and Picard wakes up. And so Dr. C and Riker are like basically on the floor with him, and Picard just looks very dazed, but then he looks at Riker for like a really long time, and I wrote kiss. Just like, that's like a very long look at him.
Yeah. And it totally looks like Picard's looking at his mouth a couple times too.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, basically Picard lived a lifetime in like 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, but I wrote, at least he was in sport mode.
Yeah.
And, I actually liked that so like basically it wasn't like a brainwash plan or anything. This was just a cautionary tale, I guess.
Yep.
So we end the episode. Picard is alone in his room, in his quarters. And I was like, oh, is he gonna like try to recreate Catan in the holodeck? But then like Riker shows up and he's like, oh, we opened the probe and we found this. And I'm like, it's gonna be the fucking recorder.
Yeah.
And then Riker leaves, Picard opens it, and it's of course the fucking recorder. And the silence that like with Picard taking the recorder out and just like walking to like a different part of his like the quarters, and just the silence was very like effective.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of just like the sadness and just like, because yeah. And so then Picard starts to play the recorder, and they do a really, really beautiful shot that kind of goes around Picard and like through like behind him, and so then it goes to like a wider angle of him, and it's like a very nice way to end the episode.
Yeah.
But holy fucking shit, this episode was like, it was really good.
Yeah.
I get why people are like, I get it now. This is a really good episode.
Yeah. And even leading up to him playing the flute at the end, he's looking at it, and then he suddenly starts to like cradle it, like hold on to it really tightly and stuff, and like even that's like very effective.
I really, really liked that there wasn't a nefarious purpose, because so many episodes like this, I don't just mean in like TNG, but like I mean in like so many other TV shows, that they make this to be like, oh, they're trying to either get information or they're just trying to like get this person out of the picture. So it's like it's usually like an evil plan. It's usually for some nefarious reasons, but for this, it literally was, they were like, I guess like, learn from us, don't forget us, please like let people know our story. And it was like, oh God. And that's like, because Picard needs more trauma. And so now he like he obviously can like remember, like it seems like he might remember like some of the shit that he like went through. Yeah. So to me, that's like utterly heartbreaking that he obviously developed some kind of, like affection for Aline, and then he had like his children and grandchild, and that's like, none of it was like real, because like at the end Aline comes back as like young Aline, and they're like, thanks for hanging out with us and like sharing this experience with us,
because their whole deal was like they wanted to like show how like regular people lived and all that kind of stuff. And like I think that, yes, this episode deserves its praises, but rewatching it, having known this episode for years and years, watching it a bunch of times and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of stuff that really frustrates me about this episode.
Really?
And
I can
Yeah.
also, yes.
Yeah.
My sort of biggest issue is they were just like, hey, let's just take anyone and have them live an entire fake life.
Yeah.
And then let's rip it out from under them. And now they have all these memories. Because I just
Yeah,
from like
it's
how
like-
Picard reacted, I assume he remembers.
Yeah. It's like,
And-
did you
and
have
then,
to do
like-
this, like, in the most traumatizing way possible?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
that's
and,
what
like, I
really
don't love-
frustrates me.
That is like they just add to Picard's like continuing like traumas, and
Yeah.
it also feels like I get it, but at the same time it feels incredibly selfish
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they're
okay,
like,
that's
we're
fair.
gonna take over someone's whole like, and if we try to like remove them before we're done doing our story, our very immersive VR
Yeah.
experience, then like you will fucking die. Because you need to listen to what we have to say.
Yeah.
You need to listen to see how our regular lives were in a city, in like a community that is fucking dying, and you get to watch as it's fucking dying, and absolutely any kind of contribution you think you can make to it is useless. So you just got to sit around and with us die as you watch your family die, and you know, that's cool.
Yeah. And now you just have to live the rest of your life with this knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like this episode a lot, but like that's like to me a glaring like
Yeah.
issue with it is this is
So, I'm gonna wander into background corner for a moment about this because the episode has a lot of very strange development behind it.
Yeah. There was one last thing I wanted to say before we get into that. In that, like, one of the things that frustrates me the most also is, like, okay, like, I could maybe look past, like, how fucking traumatizing this is, except also the way they do it, they don't just, like, erase your memory and have you live this life of someone else. Like, they literally gaslight him, as in, like, making him feel crazy and, like, altering his reality. And then they do all that to convince him that that life was never real, that his life on the Enterprise was never real. And then at the end, they're like, oh, this was all a trick. So it's like, you could have just erased his memory of the Enterprise completely and had him live this life, and then he wakes up and is like, oh shit, I lived this whole life. But, like, they just had to, like, fucking gaslight him and then be at the end, it's like, haha, we gotcha. We fooled ya.
Yeah, that wouldn't make as interesting of an episode, though.
I know.
and
then
like also,
I
what did
get
they
it.
think was going to happen after?
Yeah.
Like once Picard experienced this, what he's going to go around telling, hey guys, have you heard the good word about Catan? Like what did they think there was going to happen after? So Picard knows about this. You think he's going to like sit down with someone and be like, hey guys, want to hear my crazy VR experience where I had a fake family?
I mean,
he
probably,
does.
yeah.
He does?
Well, I mean,
Oh, boy.
that's the implication of what happens. Like, you don't see it on screen, but you
Oh, but that's the
hear
thing,
about
is,
how,
like-
you know, he's writing up reports, he's passing on this information.
But how many people is he going to tell that to? So
The
like how many people
Federation?
is he actually going to give his whole like step-by-step thing of everything he experienced?
I
to
mean,
the
I don't know the
Federation?
details of how he gives them the information, but he does
But past
pass
that,
along.
what do you think the Federation's going to do with that information?
Well,
Nothing.
all
Archive it like
society
everything
wants
else?
is that, like, someone knows and someone passes on that information. And it's like, I don't think they're expecting, like, the full, like, for someone to, like, write a book writing out the whole full experience. I mean, that would be nice, but just to, like, someone to share the knowledge that this place existed and that this was what the people were like and that sort of thing. So, like, that's gonna kind of... It's not, like, necessarily gonna gain notoriety, but they're, like, you know, there's people out there that knew you existed in some
But
form.
also, in 1,000 years, nobody else came by.
Space
Apparently
is
not.
very big.
But
That's
nobody
not,
else?
That's not inconceivable.
I mean, the criticism I do have there is that they knew that the star system was called Canaan,
Yeah.
which is just like, how'd you know that? Because these people died 1,000 years before any of the rest of you were exploring space, so
Maybe
where'd
that
this name
got,
come from?
maybe that got integrated into the program or whatever, like they knew what
No. I mean they knew in the shot on the bridge before
Yeah.
Picard woke up.
No, I know that, like, but I mean, like, maybe there's some knowledge somewhere, like, maybe when when the probe interacted with the Enterprise or whatever, they knew that's what Starfleet calls the star system, and that got integrated into the VR program.
That's possible, I guess. I don't think that would make the most sense, but
yeah,
I mean,
because that would indicate someone would have had to, like, Starfleet is not 1,000 years old, right? So, like, someone else would have had to know that information to be able to pass that along so that the ship could identify that, right?
No, but
because
I mean,
they want
but
people
I mean
to
that,
remember who they are. Why would they say like, "Oh, well, you could just call us whatever the fuck you want"?
I don't know. I can't defend this one.
Yeah, I don't think it needs defending. It's fine. It's just a thing that they overlooked. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how they overlooked in the last episode about Ro going around and touching stuff all over the ship, even though she was unsubstantial. But whatever. Unsubstantial is not the word. What's the word when you're not what do you call it? When you like can't touch things. There's a word for that.
When you can't touch things?
I don't know, incorporeal maybe?
Yeah, incorporeal
Okay.
is the word, yeah.
Great. Okay, there we are. Anyway, yes. So, wandering into background corner. So this episode, there is a lot of information on its background. I'm not going to get into all of it because a lot of it isn't super interesting. It's just kind of like, oh, that's the process of how an episode comes together.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about this one is the fact that it actually started as two completely separate episode concepts.
Mm-hmm. And
So
for
what-
those who don't know, that this episode is like really famous among TNG episodes. It's
Yeah. So there's
I think this is the episode
extensive
that-
amount written about it.
sorry?
There's an extensive amount written about it.
Yeah, because this episode is like the most critically acclaimed episode of the series, I would say.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain it won a Hugo Award for something, but I do not recall what off the top of my head.
Yeah, I knew it won a Hugo Award as well. I think it's like the only TNG episode that won a Hugo.
Yeah, it is. It is. Quite infamously. But anyway, so the episode started as two things. One of them was a concept that Michael Piller had in the previous season that he didn't pitch it. He just kind of like sent this on to the writing staff, and they thought it was very interesting. And a couple of them tried to play around with it and make it work, and none of them could really come up with a good concept for it. They had like a dozen of them, and just none of them really came out. And that was the one about Picard experiencing an unlived life. Mm-hmm. And they just couldn't find a way to really make it work. And then a guy, Morgan Gendel, I think it's Gendel. Star Trek allowed story pitches from writers, both as submitted scripts and of like, you come in, you pitch your episode thing, and we will either buy it from you or not. So in this case, he pitched the concept of, it was going to be an anti-war story of a civilization that had been through some terrible war and didn't want others to repeat it. So they hit the ship with some kind of probe that knocks out everyone, and they wake up in this, nuclear holocaust world. And they can't. They're just in comas during the time. But they have to live through what is going on there to its completion in order to get the story, basically. And obviously there were a lot of things about that had to do with like more conflict and whatnot, and those all slowly got phased out. What Morgan said about it is that his themes of like cultural memory and passing down traditions and things like that was one of the things that he was going to focus on, and he got that through his Jewish upbringing, experience with Holocaust survivors in his family and others that he knew in the community and whatnot. So yeah, he thought that kind of like generational information being passed down was a really interesting sci-fi concept. And when they heard this, they were like, wait a minute. We've got this old script idea that we were never able to turn it into anything. What if we combine the ideas? And that's what ended up turning into this. It went through a lot of reworking. I think it was Michael Piller ended up coming in and doing like huge uncredited dialogue rewrites on it. just to like make things flow more convincingly, and make the world seem a little bit more real. And I think he was really successful about that. I think that the dialogue is mostly quite fantastic throughout it. The episode does an excellent job, even though it's focusing on Picard, of making these other characters feel natural. And I really appreciate how the episode came together. And I think that's all I have to really contribute about background corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sort of, when you describe the inspiration as being this sort of like generational passing down of history and stuff, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
To me, yeah.
Especially since like that would have been in the early 1990s when that part of history was much more what's the word? It was much fresher in people's minds. Like people would have, a parent or a grandparent who lived through it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now that's, there's very few people who have that lived experience left.
Yeah.
I mean, there still are with other generational traumas that we have, of course.
Oh, yeah,
but,
for sure.
But with the particular
that specific
ones in the Jewish
inspiration.
communities, yeah, that inspired him.
Yeah, I looked up what the Hugo Award was for, and it was for Best Dramatic Presentation.
Oh, thank God it wasn't makeup. God
Yeah.
damn. There's a couple of instances where Star Trek has won awards for things for, like, a really famous or infamous episode, and it's just like, why? Like, there's a really bad Voyager episode that is kind of infamous among Voyager episodes that's considered one of the worst, and it won an award for makeup. That was, what is it, the Warp 10 We Turn Into Fish People one. Salamanders.
God.
Yeah, that fucking one.
That episode's so fucking bad.
It is, but anyway, let's stick with the Inner Light.
Yeah. Also, so fun fact is that it says here, this is according to the Wikipedia about the episode, that the Inner Light was the first television program to be so honored, like with that award, since Star Trek: The Original Series, for the episode "The City on the Edge of Forever."
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
that won in 1968, and apparently
I could see that standing with City on the Edge of Forever. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, apparently the Menagerie also won a Hugo Award.
Interesting.
And the series finale of TNG won a Hugo Award.
That one doesn't shock me.
Yeah.
So, Dory, City on the Edge of Forever is a similar story that connects to...
oh, yeah, it kind of is,
what do you call it? People connecting... Sorry, not people. People experiencing an old history that they're not familiar with. But it's... has a very different approach to it in the end. It is absolutely nothing about generational trauma.
Yeah. So in that episode, Kirk and Spock sort of... Or is it just Kirk? I think Spock goes looking for him. But
Spock was looking for him. McCoy went with him.
Yeah.
So it was Kirk and McCoy.
Yeah, so Kirk and McCoy, I think... That's the episode with, like, the gate that they go through, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they find this mysterious gate on this planet, this, like, portal thing. They go through it, and they end up in, like, on Earth in the 1930s.
Wait. Okay. I think Spock is there. I think they're looking for Spock. Okay.
Oh, they might
Something
be looking...
happens. Spock goes nuts for some reason. I can't remember why. And he ends up coming down to this planet, running through the gate without them. And
okay.
It turns out he went into the past and...
Wait. That's not
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Quite what happens. It
no?
sort
okay.
of is, but wrong people. So it
okay.
says in
the
right,
it was McCoy who went nuts.
In the episode, Dr. McCoy accidentally overdoses himself with a dangerous drug. He transports himself down to a mysterious planet while not in his right mind and is pursued by the rescue party led by Kirk and Spock, who soon come across the Guardian of Forever, which is the time portal. And
speaking time portal.
Yeah, so McCoy's the one that goes through the portal, travels back in time, and Kirk and Spock are looking for him.
Yes, and he accidentally changes history when he does this. Yeah,
because they end up in New York City in like the 1930s, and what happens is Kirk saves this woman from dying. and they fall in love and stuff, but it turns out that they interfered with history to where, because this woman died, the United States never got involved in World War II and the Nazis won.
No, because this woman lived.
Oh, because this woman lived, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought I said because
she's like
she
a
didn't
huge
die.
peace advocate. Because she's a huge peace advocate.
Yeah.
And ends up having influence with the government and convinces them not to enter the Second World War.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
then they have to go back and make sure she dies. Yeah. It's a real wild episode. Also, such a weird, like, such a weird message, too, and it's like, because this woman was so anti-war, it, like, ruined the world. I'm like, okay.
Oh my god, that's just like Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
That's I wouldn't say that's quite what the message is supposed to be. It's a more of that sometimes there are necessary evils
yeah.
that
Like-
that
like-
that
Like,
we need to accept
Yeah, because...
in order to, like, because evil begets evil, of course.
Yeah.
So we know that.
So,
But-
Dory, because the point of every Gundam series is war is bad, and this episode is basically war is sometimes good. War mostly bad, but sometimes good.
War is good for business.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was the other. And if people don't know like what the Hugo Awards are, they're just like a really prestigious like literary awards.
Yes.
Yeah, like very prestigious, like in the world of like literature.
Isn't Hugo specifically for fantasy and sci-fi?
I think it is, yeah,
Yeah, because it's
But-
named after Victor Hugo.
yeah. But they also have like other awards because, funnily enough, Archive of Our Own won a Hugo Award.
Yeah.
Yeah, for specifically for their archival system. So they have like technical awards and stuff too.
Cool.
They have like library sciences awards or whatever.
Also, yes, it is for best sci-fi and fantasy works and achievements.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so The Inner Light. I think the one thing that ends up actually really bothering me about this episode is the title. Because it's just like a poetic description of what's going on in the episode. It's quite literal.
Yeah.
And I find that a little annoying. It's literally, there's a blinding light destroying this planet inside of you that you're experiencing. Like, that is actually what the point is.
Yeah.
And I find that a little annoying. Also, apparently, the guy who pitched it thought that it was, like, real poignant because he made it like a... It's a reference to some B-side Beatles song, and then he pitched another episode in the next season that he also wanted to call or name after a Beatles song. And he's like, oh yeah, it's just my little in-joke. And I'm just like, man, considering how, like, influential your episode became in the end and how, like, highly regarded it is, what the fuck is with this stupid tidbit that has, like, absolutely no value contributing to the episode at all?
Is the other episode called I Am the Walrus?
No, they dropped that. They dropped the title that he wanted and ended up going with something else. It was called Revolution, and when you watch the episode, I will bring that up again, and you'll be like, "Why would he have called this Revolution? That's not a title that's applicable to what happens in it."
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
he wanted to choose like obscure Beatles songs, and then I'm like, "Then why did you choose Revolution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's
pretty
not obscure.
well-known
That's on the
song.
fucking White Album."
It was very interesting rewatching this episode because it doesn't hit me the way it used to. And that could be, so it could be because I've just seen this episode so many times, I know the deal with the episode, all that kind of thing. But I also recently, saw a tweet that said, that was hot take, The Inner Light isn't actually that great of an episode. Not that the episode, I wish I could remember what argument they were making, but it wasn't that the episode is bad, but that it's just, not as great as, people make it out to be.
So, this is interesting because I shared that opinion for quite a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when I was younger, I just didn't really care for it. I'm like, it's fine, I guess,
Yeah.
whatever. And now that I'm, like I haven't actually seen it in I don't know, about 5-6 years now, but sitting down and watching it with a critical eye made me appreciate it a lot more than I ever did when I was younger. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that this is like a masterpiece of cinematic achievement. They were making, an hour of good television. I think it's very effective at what it does. I think that it does a very good job pushing through the ideals that Star Trek and especially TNG were quite famous for, in that it's about a hopeful future, even in the face of terrible things in this case. So it really thematically ties things together really well. I think what makes it so effective, at least for me, is how personal of a story it is. And it really isn't about the plot. It's about Picard's personal experience as he's going through it. And I think the episode does a very good job connecting the audience with that experience. And that adds to it feeling more powerful as you're watching it.
Yeah.
And that may not that may like leave other issues with the episode, whether it comes to undeveloped or underdeveloped characters, plot holes, etc., etc. But that personal connection really, I think, is something that Star Trek, when it does well, it really does transcend the flaws that the episode may have otherwise.
Oh, for sure. But the thing is like they could have delved into that more. Like, I think the parts of them trying to revive Picard and stuff were just unnecessary.
There were actually a lot more of those in the original the original write-up for it, and Michael Piller is the one who insisted that they cut more and more of it out, to the point that once they got to the end, there was only one interlude throughout the entire episode in which, two interludes, in which they were trying to wake Picard up and deal with that stuff that was on the ship. And the only reason they really kept them in was to tie it into people who didn't know that they were watching Star Trek if they suddenly tuned in.
Yeah, I guess that would have been a concern at the time.
Yeah, and it's not anymore.
But I think that was a mistake. I also
in the long term, maybe.
Just for me, like, I understand what they were going for, and I think that yes, it was sort of powerful in what it was doing, and like Star Trek is really good at those personal stories and stuff.
Yes.
I think this might just be a me issue. I was just so distracted by the fact that they were fucking with Picard, that they were just like, no, you're crazy, that never existed, like that, and that never gets addressed in the episode as like kind of a fucked up thing that they did. That it's like, it's okay that they just traumatized this person for life because they wanted to share about their society. Like, I'm like, that's not cool, dude. and like, yeah, I was just distracted by that. And like, I felt like you really didn't get to see a lot of these people's way of life. Like,
no, that's true.
It just was like kind of random snippets of like stuff that happened with Picard, and it wasn't really like, and it was about I feel like it was more about him realizing that like the planet was dying than like actually how these people lived their life and stuff. And like,
but the implication is that he is living his life there, and those are not the snippets that we're getting.
But that's the point of the episode, though, is about, we want you to know how we lived our lives.
Well, no, that's the story of the episode. The point of the episode is Picard's personal connection with what's going on there.
Well, then they should have had more coda.
Well, no, as I mentioned, they clearly did the Picard's personal connection part very effectively, especially if it, brought brought tears to Dory's eye at the end of it there during that final scene.
Mm-hmm. Listen.
Oh, well, it didn't bring tears to my eyes. I just found it heartbreaking.
Okay, fair enough.
The whole idea is like, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm not saying you're wrong. It's clear, like, this is your personal opinion of how you felt while watching the episode, and that's fine too. Everybody's watching of the episode is subjective in the end.
I just feel like they didn't commit very strongly to like any.
They didn't commit in a Star Trek, on a TNG episode. They didn't go.
Yeah,
all
that
the
is
way.
kind of their issue.
Yeah,
It's shocking.
That's the thing, is that, like, I think, like, yeah, the issue is that I am watching this critically, right? And that, like, if this was the first time I'd ever seen it and I'm just experiencing it, I think I would have those emotions. But I think this is just a bias of having seen it so many times and, like, having all these new thoughts about it and stuff, and like analyzing it more. When I was watching the episode, I'm like, this episode feels fine, but it doesn't, I don't know, it feels a little shallow to me. Like,
I mean, it's only 45 minutes, and the only character that they really focus on is Picard. So yeah, I can see that.
But they've managed to get a lot more depth in other episodes.
That's true.
Like, fucking, like, Measure of a Man. Like, they managed to pull it off, right, with that. Like, I think that's a much more, like, deeply personal story and stuff than this is.
Well, I don't know, because in Measure of a Man, I don't know if you recall, but the second half of the episode, even though it's about Data, you stop getting inputs from him about it. It ends up all being about Riker feeling uncomfortable with how he's dealing with it.
Yeah, but that first half of the episode explored more of Data's, like, personal journey than I feel like this entire episode did with Picard.
Okay,
because the snippets are, like, I just don't feel like the snippets really focus on Picard and his emotions all that much. Like, it's just, like, kind of stuff happening.
Well, they don't focus on emotions that much. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, they don't.
Here's what I just realized. So, okay, I like this episode. I enjoyed it. I think it was very effective. I mean, definitely, obviously, I have criticisms of it. But you know what I realized? This episode didn't have to be Picard. Like, it's not so like, the fact that it was Picard doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like, it's not even about Picard. So in, like, a weird way, this doesn't even matter. Because they just picked a guy to bring in. So, like, does Picard's feelings matter in this? Because it's not even about him. It's
okay,
just...
no, wait a minute. I would like to point out that Picard's personality,
it wouldn't be anybody, but, like,
no,
it didn't have to be Picard.
The things that define who Picard is, him being a problem solver, a leader, the kind of person who really doesn't back down from his convictions, and is very stubborn and difficult to convince of things that he can't essentially prove in front of him, those come through when he's down there on the planet as Kanan.
But this wasn't about Picard even, because they didn't ask for someone like that. They wanted a teacher. They wanted someone who could tell. Like, so it wasn't even, like, particular to Picard.
I know it wasn't particular to Picard, but you said it could have been anyone and it wouldn't have mattered. But it did matter
not
because
anybody,
Picard's interaction, Picard's interaction with what happened was a big part of the story.
Well, a big part of our story. But what would have changed if, like, they put somebody else in there? Nothing, because in the end, the planet, they still all die. Nothing changed.
I thought you were talking about what the writers were doing, not
no.
what
I
was
mean,
theoretically
like, the story
happening in the Star Trek universe. Okay,
no.
fine.
I mean, like, in this. So, like, this really, like, if you took Picard out and put in almost anybody else, like, what so, like, that's the thing. So it feels like in this, like, I like that Picard got to do some shit, but, like, it doesn't matter, though, in a way. Like, it doesn't change anything. It just feels almost mean. Because, like, they just picked Picard at random. And so it's not even about him. They're trying to make it about him, but it's not about him. It's about them. Because anything Picard does in this story doesn't matter. Because everything happens anyways. Picard's like, hey, this planet is fucking dying, and the minister's like, oh, we know. We had decided we figured this out 2 years ago. Oh, we've got a plan. And what's the plan? To fucking set up a VR experience when somebody, on like the right person comes by, or not even the right person, someone that they just decided, or I don't even know how they decide, because like I wouldn't consider Picard a teacher. But they said that they were waiting for a teacher, someone to come by to like tell people, but that didn't have to be Picard. So so I kind of agree with Maggie if this is like a lot more surface. Like I like this episode, but it's a lot more surface level than even like I guess I initially even thought about until right now. Is that like it didn't even need Picard in a way. It just was like a way to play on it. It's kind of manipulative because they wanted to play on his emotions. They set him up to be like, feel things about us, you know, like develop feelings and get attached to the situation. Oh, by the way, none of it's real. For right now, this shit did happen, but we're all dead. We haven't been around for 1,000 years, and we did it because we want to be remembered.
Yeah, and I feel like they could have like added like more of a coda of like Picard processing what's happened.
Yeah, and I also feel like I agree with you, Mike. Of like there also should have been more of like, because we don't see him do the everyday shit. We see him with his wife, we see him with his kids, but that doesn't represent anything particular to this community. Mm-hmm. We don't see how, other than when they all gathered around the affirmation tree, but like that, the affirmation tree is truly like in 2 scenes, and nothing about it is that important other than they all like share water with it, but like that doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
because this tree fucking does nothing for them.
Yeah. I think that this episode gives you a taste of a lot of different good things, but it doesn't really fill you up with any one particular thing. It's like a plate of really tasty appetizers that like you're still hungry after. And it's like, oh, okay. Instead of, they could have picked like 1 or 2 things and like given you a full meal.
Because now each time the more I think about it, the more I'm like, well, this is actually an issue. I still like the episode,
yes,
but now like I just keep thinking of like, okay, well, this is actually doesn't make sense. This is a problem, because if they wanted to show like, I don't know how they, but I feel like they should have shown him being more part of the community. Instead, he was just spending time with Bataille, spending time with his kids, spending time with his wife, which is not the community. It doesn't show their particular way of life. It's just showing their family's way of life, which it wasn't even real because Picard wasn't there, so these children weren't anything. So like I think now I'm just getting frustrated.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean, because I don't even mean to say that the episode's bad, or that like it isn't good, or that it isn't deserving of its acclaim or anything. I think that a lot of flaws have been overlooked about this episode.
Yeah, I would agree. I still think it's a good episode. I liked it, but yeah, the more I think about it, the more I realize like, yeah, this is, I guess, very classic TNG of like, they don't really commit. Like they could have gone so much, like they should have shown of how Picard was either like an integral like part of their community, or just something of, or maybe he doesn't even have to be like, he sees who was integral to the community. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, if it's him just the one bringing up the water issues, and like we don't see anything of like what the fuck did happened on this planet then anyways. If Picard was the one bringing shit up, then like what are we even watching?
Yeah.
What's different? What happened then? If who was the one bringing this shit up? Or is Picard stepping in the shoes of this guy Kamen who did live this? Is that sort of what they're trying to be? Or was Kamen a real guy that they just like put Picard in? replaced with Picard, or is this is this a fan fiction?
Yeah, I
is
don't
this
know.
a Catan fan fiction? Like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And Jeff, you'll know what I'm talking about when I bring this up, but I think I also have a bit of a bias when I think about a particular set of episodes that DS9 did that did a similar concept that I think is executed much better.
Yeah, I
think deserves the-
briefly mentioned those. I don't remember if it was while we started recording or
Yeah.
just before, but yeah, this is a concept that Star Trek revisits again.
Yeah.
To very good success.
All right. So time to move on to favorite moments and lines and things of that nature.
I liked Elaine's dresses.
Mm-hmm.
Her outfits in this episode were great.
Yeah.
I like that Picard got along really well with his daughter. I like that in the end it wasn't like an evil plan.
Yeah.
I like that it was it had good intentions.
Yeah.
Was the execution great? No.
Yeah.
But the intentions were good.
I definitely that was something I definitely have forgotten to appreciate because I know this episode so well that like if you haven't seen this episode and you're used to Star Trek, you're going to assume that this was for some evil purpose. And the reveal that it wasn't was quite was quite
surprised.
a good twist and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah. I to one of Jeff's points earlier, I did like that Picard's personality still shone through with how like he was living in this community. Like he was still very much the man that he is. Like
Yes.
even like experiencing this vastly different life and apparently accepting that like the Enterprise was never real. That sort of thing.
Rip.
I did kind of like the glimpses of the society we did get felt very real in that like, politicians ignoring obvious problems is very real. That sort of thing. Yeah, I liked his interactions with his daughter and stuff like that. I liked how it looked like Picard and Riker almost kissed. Yeah, there's a lot of like nice stuff in this episode that I did enjoy. That's about it.
For me, it's actually Picard's, Kanan's, his discussion with his daughter about, living now, seize the time right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just something that Picard as Kanan is saying. That is something that Picard has lived by as well. And it's actually a part of his personality that will be integrated into some excellent storytelling for him in the future as well. So I'm quite happy with them focusing on that as like a personality trait now. I know that hasn't always been him, especially in the earlier like, oh, he's like a French captain kind of person.
Yeah.
But now like I very much like that they have decided on this being like a major personality trait of his, especially since like after what happened to him with the Borg and whatnot. It is all about like Picard is 100% in with no, you have to seize your moment right now, don't wait.
Yeah. Seize the means of production immediately.
Yes, I agree.
No, I fully agree with you on that speech. Like I thought that was excellent. All right, so now moving on to predictions for the next episode, which is the season finale. So the next episode is called Time's Arrow, Part 1.
Okay.
So, in Time's Arrow, Part 1, the Enterprise goes back to Earth after it's revealed that there's evidence that aliens visited in the 1800s.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay. Ooh, okay. Oh my god. Okay. I'm trying to think like, oh my god. Would there be like a significant event? Oh my god, the aliens started the the Industrial Revolution.
As a plot to destroy humanity.
Yes. They caused climate change.
Is the implication that aliens started the Industrial Revolution here? Because there's a Voyager episode about something like that.
No, it wasn't the implication. I just said that. That was the prediction. No, that wasn't a serious prediction. But that's
okay.
funny that that
Apparently,
actually was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently future technology is responsible for the entire technological revolution of the 1990s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's a bad set of episodes. And the Voyager crew goes to San Francisco. Good times. Also, Sarah Silverman's in it.
Oh, wild.
Although, that is sort of the implication of the Terminator. That, or at
that's
least
true.
Terminator 2, I think, where it's revealed like they had a Terminator arm, and that's how like computers and stuff came about.
Yeah.
Okay. Aliens were there in the 1800s.
Yeah. What do you think that they found?
Racism.
No, I mean, what do you think they found that suggests that aliens were there in the 1800s?
Oh, I thought you meant what did the aliens find? Oh, what did the humans find? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh boy, what is on Earth that people would be like, how the fuck did this happen?
Yeah, especially something that they'd call the Enterprise back for.
Is this how Stonehenge came around? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That was like that's
Stonehenge has been around for much longer.
yeah, significantly.
Yeah. Maybe they find like a portrait, like a secret portrait. And they're like, wait, what the fuck is this? But initially people were like, oh, it's just like an imagination thing. But really it was like someone's family portrait.
And it's like gray aliens.
Listen, they, maybe, I don't know what kind of aliens would have been on the Earth. Ooh, that's like such a good question. What would it be that they found? Oh, they just found like a spaceship. They finally get access to Area 51.
After all these years.
Yeah, they built it in
that's
that
an
area
episode too.
to like hide the fact. They built it in that particular area because they were like, this crashed here in the 1800s. We gotta hide it.
Mm-hmm. There is a very fun episode of Star Trek that basically implies that like the aliens that in Star Trek were the ones that crashed at Area 51.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so
there
funny.
is an it doesn't imply it. It is that episode.
Yeah, it is. That's what the episode
it takes
is.
place in 1947.
Oh, that's so good. Oh boy. Are they saying that like the aliens just were there in the 1800s and left, or like they arrived and stayed?
That's up to you.
Or does
Yeah, that's not something we're really going to tell you.
Yeah.
Too much.
I also genuinely don't
story.
remember.
Well, okay. I assume that like if they like maybe the obvious answer is like they find a random spaceship hidden somewhere, but like how would they know that's from the 1800s? Mm-hmm. Unless the spaceship was by carriage. Horses just like dragging a spaceship behind them. That's so dumb.
Well,
I think maybe they find like a portrait somewhere where like it's revealed that like maybe they're like somebody's like ancestor, somebody's like low key part alien, and somebody's ancestor like maybe like okay, a spaceship crashed in the 1800s, and somebody like saved them, and maybe they became part of the family, and maybe there was like a portrait done, and maybe they like hid the portrait. And then maybe something happens and the portrait gets found and they're like, wait, what the fuck? And then like it's revealed, oh, it's a family secret that like this was actually like some like an alien they found that they like nursed back to health and like was like a member of their family until they had to leave and go back or something. Or alternatively, ooh, what if someone, an alien comes to the Earth being like, oh, I was fully here in the 1800s. And, like, they are able to, like, say shit that, like, oh, yeah, this was this. And, like, I helped with this shit in this, like, historical event. Like, they come back with, like, because I guess, like, we don't know how old aliens are. Mm-hmm. We don't know what their time, line is like. So maybe they're like, yeah, I was fucking here for this. And they have, like, I almost said props. They have, like, stuff from the 1800s when they were there. Maybe there's, like, an old-timey photo, because they were doing some photos. Yeah. In the late 1800s, because we don't know when in the 1800s. Oh my god, can you imagine Regency era aliens? Oh, but that's in, like, I'm thinking of, like, England. This is the States, or this is just Earth.
Yeah, I didn't say what part of Earth.
Oh god, that could be anything then. Oh no. Oh no.
I think I'll let you off the hook though, because I think we have plenty for a prediction. You've offered up. Yeah,
this is so much. There's too many. There's too many options. Yeah. I could keep going forever. Oh my god, there's too many things. Too many variables.
Yeah, you've offered up a nice selection of possibilities, I think.
Oh yeah.
So, if you'd like to see if any of that's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.